So, Noreen wrote to me and asked me the following. She says she's an aspiring person. Aspiring person? What? I read that so badly. She's a person aspiring to become a mental health counsellor and specialise in the field of children and adolescents. She asks, is this course of Applied Neuroscience MSc or the alternative one, Psychology and Neuroscience of Mental Health, suitable? So are these courses suitable for her, considering she wants to work in the field of mental health counselling, specifically with children and adolescents? Thank you for your question. I will be honest with you. I would probably say no. It does have an advanced module in there, and I'm going to give you more of an answer. So I personally would say no, because you might get bored, considering that that's what you want to learn, and there's only really one module associated to that. However, all the other modules are very important for that particular topic. However, I do think that you've got to pick a course that is heavy on the child and adolescent mental health with all these other elements around it, because that's what you want to learn. And if that's what you want, this isn't quite for you. And I'll tell you why, right? You do 4 modules in the foundation module. I've got the sheet up here. I wish I could share it. I don't know how to. It's a PDF. They sent it to me when I opened the thing. It's basically when I started the course. It's basically a reading list that goes into what each module is. So, foundation modules, you got 1 neuroscience module where you learn about brain connections and things. You got 1 techniques module, which is where you learn about scanning techniques and research techniques, like how they research behaviors in mice, etc., etc. By the way, I've got a really bad cough. It's not COVID, but you can't get it through the screen anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Then we've got the psychological foundations module, which is psychology, basically. And then you've got mental health in the community, which is a terrible, terrible module. It was so crap. I cannot believe how crap this module was. 4 weeks of nonsense. It was just all about how the UK changed its mental health treatments through the years. And I was so bored and so annoyed throughout. The essay was alright, but it was a terrible module. And shame on you, King's College, because that was an abomination. And you need to change that. I know you have a carousel system, but you need to pay some money and change that module, because I learned barely anything. The essay was good though. I'll say that. I learned a lot from the essay. Now, you get to choose 4 from the advanced modules, right? And one of them is one exactly for you. Child and adolescent mental health, right? And specifically for child development. Now, my thing is this. If you do the 4, right, foundations, you don't learn anything about children there. You generally just learn general neuroscience and psychology, which is fine, no issue, right? You might get a question that might be relating to development, but I don't think there was one in the 3 modules I've done so far. So yeah, I would say you don't learn anything about the specific thing you want to learn about. And if you want to learn about this thing, you'd want to learn about that very thing from the beginning, or else it's kind of off-putting and it becomes a long slog. And while I feel that it's important to know all of these things, these foundations, I do know a little thing or two about development in general. And if you go into something where the one thing you want to learn is like so far away, weeks away, months, not even weeks away, in this case it would be months away, maybe even a year away, it makes everything before it very, very boring, even though it's relating. So that's why I would say proceed with caution, even though there's one module in there. Now, the 4 foundation modules are 8 months, and then the 4 advanced modules are 8 months. So it may, depending on where you join the course, it may be a very long time before you do the child and adolescent module. And yeah, I mean, that's 16 months. However, it doesn't mean that that's the only module you're going to where you're going to study child and adolescent mental health. If you continue on to the MSc, those are research modules where you basically dictate where you're going to go in your research. You're not going to specifically research something, but I believe you're going to design a study, and you need to do a lot of reading for that, and you get to really learn on your own about certain topics, right? So, like I said, or I didn't say it yet, but so the thing is, you could effectively do all of those modules, and relate them all to child development and adolescent mental health, child and adolescent mental health. But the problem is the potential long slog that you're going to have to get through to get there. And if it's something you can do, by all means, do it. But if it's something that you don't want to wait for, and you don't want to learn all this other stuff in the first place, then I'd say maybe avoid. Now, all this other stuff, you need to know it. But my issue, and I probably mentioned it earlier, so I do apologize if I'm repeating. You got to have a taste of the one thing you want to learn about from the beginning, or else everything else just looks boring, and it is boring. So, that's my take on that. Now, if you were to do this, I'll give you a recommendation of modules. So because it's in a carousel system, certain modules happen at the same time. And so if you do child and adolescent mental health, you would have to miss global mental health. Now, I don't know what global mental health is, but it sounds boring. In fact, let me just flick to that right now. Some of the modules there are just, they're just crap. Like, they're just terrible. I don't know what they were doing when they came up with some of these things. So Neuroscience in Society, this module captures recent popularization of neuroscience and discusses the social relevance of neuroscience in the fields such as neurotechnology, neuromarketing, neurosecurity? What? What the flip is that? Together with how neuroscience can help us understand social choices and interactions. That's a worrying thing, because I didn't even know that was a thing. Neurosecurity. So I don't know what that is, but I would assume that it's to do with tech in the brain. Maybe we need to secure society by controlling brains. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a thing they're planning with this whole new neurotechnology business. I'm not a full-on conspiracy theorist, but I do not like some of the things I'm seeing in recent times with the excessive control that's going on. I'm waffling on. Let me that took me by surprise, I must say. Let me get to the adolescent one. Sorry, global mental health. Across the world, and especially in low and middle class countries, people who have mental health problems are not supported by trained professionals or able to access evidence-based treatments. Health services frequently do not meet people's mental health needs. Global mental health is about changing that situation. It is about investigating the needs of people in different countries and formulating the most locally appropriate and feasible way to better support them. Okay. My problem with that is, in this country, the mental health realm is just crap. So for us to educate ourselves on the rest of the world, right? where they don't have as much money as us. They don't have the money for mental health training, right? It would be very nice to have that, yes, but if we in England have one of the crappiest systems of mental health support I've ever seen in my studies, who the hell are we to educate ourselves on why everyone else needs that? Surely we need to look. I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe there's some value there. I just back to the module. Social. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Child and adolescent mental health. So in this module, it looks like they go into introducing the key stages and major developments, major determinants of child and adolescent development. And they also, oh damn, explain key biological and environmental factors that lead to vulnerabilities in mental health risks for children and adolescents. So you get to learn all the stuff that you want, right? You will also develop knowledge of current methods of assessing, treating, managing common mental health and neurodevelopmental disorders. And later on, it goes on to talk about the target students. Evidence based on treating, managing common mental health issues such as conduct disorder, self-harm, suicidality, depression, and anxiety, as well as common neurodevelopmental disorders, for example, autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. So those interested in a career in research or clinical/support work or in education, this module is specifically for you. So that would be you. But like I said, it's one module and you may have to wait a while to do it. You may be bored by way before you get there, because I don't think the other modules they don't even introduce, they don't even talk about development, child development and things like that. Going back to what I was saying on global mental health, one of the things that caught my eye was when they said evidence-based treatments. That's not the issue we have here. The evidence-based treatments here, they are shit. Like, I don't swear much, but they are absolutely shit. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, they just don't work. Ketamine, believe it or not, based on a scientific study, I'll have the link in the bio below, or the citation. It's a review on ketamine, and in that study, they actually said that ketamine is the best antidepressant that the world has ever seen. To those of you that don't know, it's also used as a party drug. It's so good that they're actually making new antidepressant drugs that are as close to ketamine as possible, right? So basically what they're saying is ketamine is the ultimate. It's got the least side effects. It's got the best effects. It works instantly, right? And that's compared to normal antidepressants, that's pretty good because it works the same day that you eat it. Whereas with antidepressant meds, it takes about 6 weeks to kick in, which is a problem because you start taking it and you're just waiting. So the problem is ketamine, once it's legalized, it's unpatentable, so they won't legalize it. That's literally the only reason. I mean, come on, man, wake the hell up. It's actually studying this that made me look at the whole COVID situation a lot differently with the whole push for vaccination. And I said, hey, look, when they're so incompetent on things like psychedelic drugs and ketamine being illegal, whereas the nonsense drugs like SSRIs and Prozac are completely legal, then clearly they don't know what they're talking about, because I can see the science. it's quite clear in front of me. The people that are writing this science, such as the team at Imperial College London, are telling the government and advising the government to legalise these. One of them, Professor David Nutt, was actually the UK Drug and Health advisor, and he told the government that MDMA is a very safe drug. Statistically speaking, it's actually safer than equestrian. Now, they fired him for that because he's told them something they didn't want to hear, because he told them it was also safer than alcohol, which is legal, and he also said that cannabis was safer than alcohol, which is legal, and they fired him. So, you know, if this is how the government is, oh, this guy comes and says something that you don't like, so you just fire him, then it makes me raise an interesting question of, well, when the vaccine guy came along and told you exactly that, how do I know that you didn't, or he didn't feel threatened in the very same way? And at the end of the day, he was a bit of a nerd to be even in that office, so he may have had a history of nerdy behavior, meaning he may not have been strong enough to tell you no. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to give you a recommendation though. Get this book, Man and His Symbols, Carl Jung, very good. This one is a lot easier to understand than this one. This one's good too, but if you want to know about child development and want to learn about that while you're waiting, get this book. I haven't read it yet, but I will someday. For now, I'm going to get through this one as well as that one, which is Psychology and Alchemy, and then the one above it there, which is Aeon, and then up there, which is Memories, Dreams, Reflections, and then the red book, which is there. This man is a genius. So that book on development, that was his book on child development. So it's called Development of Personality. I haven't read it, but based on the fact that I've read many of his other works, I assume that there's a lot of good stuff in there. Everything he writes is just so good. So that's a recommendation for now. Further, I'll give you a little breakdown of what I would recommend in terms of your optional modules. So, child and adolescent mental health, of course, you'd pick that one and you'd not be able to choose global mental health, which is fine because it sounds like a crap module anyway. And then you've got 3 others to choose from. So, from another set, you choose from Psychology and Neuroscience of Psychosis, Neuroimaging and Mental Health, or Pharmacotherapy in Mental Health. So, if you're choosing child and adolescence, I would probably choose neuroimaging or psychosis, right? Because you're going to get children who may have psychotic disorders, and it would be very, very good to know about that. In fact, I'd probably recommend that one. Neuroimaging is fun, but you know, you're never gonna look at the kid's brain scan, are you? The doctor will probably do that. And it's more important to have knowledge of psychosis if you're working with someone rather than doing the brain scan stuff. I would avoid pharmacotherapy because pharmacotherapy sucks, and that's why I don't like the global mental health module, because it's like evidence-based, and I mean, your evidence is just nonsense. The things that they push in those papers is quite frankly ridiculous. Go check out neuroscienceafterdark.com. I wrote about Riluzole on there. There'll be a link to that thing in the bio, in the description below. It shows an alternative perspective to a science paper, like a psychological perspective to the mouse's behavior. Anyway, so for the next set, you choose from Social and Genetic and Environmental Foundations of Mental Health, Psychology and Neuroscience of Affective Disorders, and Neuroscience in Society. So, the first 2, I'd pick one of those 2 if you were choosing child development, because social, genetic, and environmental foundations will you'll get the DNA. You'll get to know about what we know about DNA and in what a child could have inherited from their parents or environment. That one would be very important. I would say that one would be the best of this set. Affective disorders is things like depression and anxiety. So that would also be very important. But I think that's terrible. I don't think that's good that they've grouped those two together, because those two are very, very important for someone who's actually interested in child and adolescent mental health. You'd want to know both of those. Anyway, then the first module is Psychology and Neuroscience of Addictions, or Mindfulness. Sorry, not the first, but the next set you choose from is out of those two. And bear in mind, you can pick one and then wait till the year comes around again and pick the other one at that time. It would mean doing the rest of your modules and then waiting, I believe, 4 months for the module to come back around. Not too sure on that one. You'd have to calculate it. But yeah, for the first one, I would avoid mindfulness and just go with Psychology and Neuroscience of Addictions, because children are going to come in, like young adolescents are going to come in with addictions to drugs and things like that, and you're going to need to have an understanding on that. So, all in all, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something about whether this is good for you or not. Like I said, I hope I acknowledged what this is. This is not COVID in this cut. I've made a few videos here. Apologies. Yeah, like I said, you don't want to wait too long to do something you're interested in and do everything else until that time comes. It will make it boring. Trust me, I've done it on other things before. It's just so crap. And when you do it when you're a child, the adult usually just says, "I'll get over it." It's part of the process. And I did used to see it that way. I did used to say, "Yeah, fine, okay, cool. I will just assume I'll just do the slog until I get to what it is I'm interested in." That was my philosophy all the way through, but I actually don't think it's the best way of teaching. You need to be adaptive, and I mean, sometimes the other kid will say, "Well, why don't I get the same treatment?" So you may have to be bold and just say, "No, I'm teaching all of you the same way." It's complicated. But you're an adult now, so still, like, if you go into something, you need to have a taste of what it is you're interested in throughout from the beginning, and have everything else work around this and piece around this, rather than you going the other way around where you're learning everything else and then you get to learn about your thing. I do think there's a value to that as well. It's just considering that this is the main thing you want to do, it might be better to do something, a course where it's centered around development of children and adolescents. Done.